Hey, crazy truckers. After 3 weeks in intensive care, they took me to a common room on a floor where all the patients with a heart condition were. As I started recovering, I began to get out of bed with the help of one of them walkers. Getting around was slow and difficult, but I finally managed to get out of the room. Since I had plenty of time, I would walk around the floor peeping around. There was a wall with many drawings and thank you notes to the doctors and health personnel. Among all these notes, there was a hospital paper encouraging patients to write a story of their experience. I believe it had a therapeutic function, so I decided to write my periplus through the heart attack. Even as I was writing it, I realized that on a literary level, it was bad. But beyond the therapeutic function, it was useful to realize something I already suspected. A, as a writer, I am quite a disaster. And B, being a voracious reader is not the same as being a good writer. However, the story itself is what it is, regardless of how well it is being told. It was the end of February. I had rather a bad flu 1 or 2 months before, but it seemed like I was already better. That weekend I was all by myself. I had the fridge full of leftovers. It was going to be a relaxing weekend. A friend of mine had given me a little ganja, and I was finally determined to defeat Ganon and finish the game, The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. One of the best and most immersive games I've seen in recent years. I bought Coca-Cola, my biggest addiction, for the whole weekend. Most people told me that Ganon, the bad guy of the game, was overrated. I'm not sure when I entered the sanctum, the chamber where Ganon was. I think it must have been late. Maybe the volume was too loud. But the truth is that it was terrifying. I admit I'm a bit like my little son. We used to play Plants vs. Zombies, and whenever he got killed, he would come up to me crying inconsolably, saying, "Daddy, the zombies ate my brain." And while Plants vs. Zombies is a rather comical game, The Legend of Zelda, not so much. And when it comes to being impressionable, I'm not far from my son. So I took the gamepad and entered the sanctum while everything shook with a deafening noise. Again, the game is very, very well done in many aspects with incredible feeling. And there I went, started shooting arrows with bombs, which is what I've used mostly to kill the bad guys. Trying to target the head to do more damage. We kept on hitting each other for a while. I began to think this was not going to be as easy as I thought. But in the end, good prevailed over evil, and with almost no fairies left to resurrect me and a few resources, I stroked the final blow. The war was over. Or so I thought, because after such carnage, it turns out that mother trucker of Ganon, instead of dying altogether and quitting, it changes into Ganon the Black Beast. So after another 15 minutes of shooting arrows and running away, I finished the bloody Black Beast, hoping that there were no more unpleasant surprises and I could relax a little. Indeed, after this step, the monster is definitely defeated, and Princess Zelda tells you a pretty unconvincing mystical story while disappearing, leaving you there looking like an idiot, waiting for a magical kiss or some voluptuous boobies or something. A little disappointed with the princess, I turned the game off, ate a little, smoked a joint to calm down, and fell asleep on the couch. I don't know how long I had been sleeping, but I woke up with a certain discomfort of unfamiliar nature. From the set of signals I got, the closest thing to something I'd felt before was kind of a pain in the pit of my stomach, similar to a heartburn. Since I ate a bunch of leftovers from the fridge, the indigestion theory, it seemed quite plausible. So I tried to solve it with the antacid I usually took whenever I had heartburn. Maybe I also took some analgesic like ibuprofen to alleviate the general discomfort I felt. The possibility of a heart attack crossed my mind like an evil shadow that you sense on your back, but when you turn around, it has already disappeared. I was trying to convince myself that it couldn't be. The classic sign of pain on the left arm was totally non-existent. I had no previous record that pointed out to cardiovascular problems. Quite the opposite. That, added to the terror it caused me the possibility of problems with my heart, made me rule out that possibility, although the sinister shadow appeared behind my shoulder from time to time. The weekend was over. I was kind of used to the discomfort. I could go out and walk. I even went to the store and run some errands. But that Monday I had to go to the hospital with my baby son. He had been complaining of a pain for a couple of days, which ended up being a twisted testicle, required emergency surgery. I had already tried everything, and my situation, far from improving, was getting worse. So after 4 or 5 days, I did what I probably should have done before. I sent a message to my oldest son to go to his mother's house after school. I took a taxi cab and went to the Delphus Clinic, a private hospital where my ex-wife worked, and that it was included in my medical insurance. On my way to the hospital, I realized that the taxi driver was driving much faster than what would be expected. I didn't ask him to. As soon as we got there, we went in the hospital through the emergency entrance. He did not allow me to get out of the cab and ask for a wheelchair. In the meantime, I had sent several messages, especially to people I was working with at the time. It took me 2 months to get back home. Do not miss the next episode of my periplus through infarction. Smell you later.
Smell you later!